Welcome to episode 255 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. And I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg. We are recording this show a little later on a Friday afternoon in the U.S., but I think it's a good reason to do that because Patrice Brend'amour is here on the show. It's been too long. How you doing, Patrice?
I'm doing very well. I'm very much in touch with iOS today. I don't know. We've talked so much about it already.
It seems like we have.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for moving the showtime around for me.
So happy to, because I always want you to come on as many times as you can. So glad as you are here. Also glad to be here is Ben Roethig. How you doing, Ben?
I'm good, Dave. Patrice may be more in touch with iOS today, but for me, my iOS is behind my Mac, being my camera.
One of my iOSs too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. Here's one, there's one. I'm around iOS, maybe.
We are. Well, glad you're here, Ben. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet is here. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing all right, and I feel like I'm failing on some level because I'm actually not using an iPhone as my webcam.
Goodbye, Jeff.
I know. Now I have to go wait in the car.
Yes.
So we got some news this week. It's been a pretty light news week, but I always seem to find stuff that's of interest to our panel here. And Ben did a great write-up about we should be universalizing OSs. So we're going to talk about that. And Final Cut Pro and Logic and all kinds of other stuff here. But let's just go right in and jump into the news for this week. Apple Fitness Plus now offers over 4,000 workouts and meditation videos. Men's Journal's Jacob Kroll was recently invited to tour the Apple Fitness Plus studio, which is probably unique for most. And he got to see the impressions of a lot of the different videos that they've put together. Apple did say that they have 4,000 of those workouts and meditations, and I definitely see quite a bit of expansion on Fitness Plus because there's just so much out there since it's launched almost 3 years ago now. I know, Patrice, you're one that uses Fitness Plus quite a bit. Have you taken a look at some of these new videos?
Probably not actively, because I'm like every week or so I'm doing like 1 or 2 workouts, usually dance, but sometimes also yoga and HIIT, like high intensity interval training. Had to think about it. What was that again? No, but it's like, I believe it. There's so much content. Sometimes for me, very hard to even keep up with it. And they keep adding new things, especially in January every year. They're adding new new categories of videos and new things. So sometimes even in September, there's some announcements. I totally believe it. And it is, I've said it, this is a bigger deal than most people, I think, in our community even think of or know of. It's hardly ever talked about.
It is not.
And it is really, really great. It makes all the difference for me because I hate going to fitness studios or anything like that. And I love just being in my living room and dancing with myself, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Jeff?
I think it's interesting that when Apple Fitness Plus launched, there was a lot of negative press. There was a lot of people not speculating, but assuming it was going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, 3 years later, and it feels like on a very regular basis, we're talking about how there's new content that's been added to the platform, and if it was not performing well, if it was not successful by whatever standard Apple has set for that, they would not be adding all of this additional content on a regular basis. So this is great.
They just added new trainers, for example, fairly recently. I'm totally with you on that one. A lot of people said, "Oh, this is going to fail," and I think they were simply not the target audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Ben?
I think it's really interesting how Apple Fitness Plus's trajectory has very closely mirrored TV Plus. It started smaller and consistently built up that library as both its user base and its original users have expanded. One part about working out that, if you keep doing the same things, you'll get bored and stop. Well, you have 4,000 different options right now that you can do in your house. There's other options that do similar things, but if you have Apple One, they basically throw it in for free. The only thing I wish is that to go with Apple Fitness Plus, Apple would get more into fitness devices. Like my nice big exercise bike back there. I wish there was a way I could upgrade that to work within Apple Fitness.
And the thing with that is Apple even announced, I think 2 years ago, a way to do that. But none of, I think that all the partners that they tried to partner with just didn't care really. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Check it out if you can. It's part of the Apple One bundle, but it does have the standalone and a subscription. I think it's $79 for the year US. So check that out for sure. This was a bit of a blunder here, and Apple, I don't know if they've even admitted it's a problem, but Apple's Lightning to USB 3 camera adapter is now not working in iOS 16.5. Apple's adapter does not work with iPhones and iPads that have been updated to the iOS 16.5 and iPadOS 16.5. According to several users across the Mac Rumors forums, the Apple Support Committee, and Reddit. So there's obviously, if it's hitting the triple play there with the with all three of those big places for complaints. The adapter does have an USB-A port for connectivity to a camera, microphone, and other USB-powered accessory to the iPhone and iPad, along with the Lightning port for charging the iPhone and iPad. We all have these adapters. I have one. I haven't tried it since this was announced. I probably should see, just kind of can see what it does, what it does, what it not does.
doesn't do anything.
Yeah. It said the issue is likely due to a software bug that will have to be addressed in a future iOS version, but the underlying cause is unknown. Apple did seed the first beta of 16.6, which we'll talk about in a minute here, to developers, but the update is likely many weeks away from being released. So maybe a 16.5.1 update? Are we surprised that this happened? Ben, what do you think?
I'm surprised this got through.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think someone has a significantly smaller posterior right now from having it chewed off by their bosses. This is something that for anybody who uses an iPad in their workflow for professional camera work, it's going to really suck. And which means Apple's probably making this a priority to fix very quickly.
Yeah. I'm wondering, did nobody discover this during the betas? Which is entirely possible, because I think this is probably something that a lot of developers don't need as much. So it's possible. Or did someone report it and it just got lost in the radar hell?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a hypothesis.
I knew you did. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
Okay,
Ben.
so go ahead.
Yeah, all the versions of the last iOS, macOS, whatever update had multiple RCs.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is something they broke while trying to fix other things.
Yeah.
Possible, yeah.
That's a possibility.
I mean, that's usually how software works anyway. Like, you fix one thing, you break another.
Yeah, that's possible. Go ahead with your hypothesis, Jeff.
My hypothesis is that we're at the point where the number of iPhone and iPad users that are relying on this specific dongle is really low, and that most of the people that are using a USB adapter are just using the Lightning to USB only, the one that doesn't have the power plug on it as well.
Yeah, or using a full-on USB-C dock, like on the newer devices.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And since most people are not using this, it was much easier for this to slip through. And if the Lightning to USB dongle is working, why would anyone think, maybe we should check the camera adapter version of this and double check, make sure that's working too? Because they're both USB adapters. Yeah. Just so happens one has a power port on it too.
Yeah. I mean, let's be fair with Apple here. I mean, yes, this is a problem. But if you think about it, like how complex it is, like how many different adapters Apple has, how many different devices they have, and so on. It is a nightmare to test this. I mean, could they have found it? Yes. Should they have? Probably also yes. But I mean, as someone who works in development, I totally understand the complexity. Well, I still underestimate the complexity probably, but I still understand it.
Yeah. Well, could they, and there's so many older adapters out there. Let's face it. I mean, we all have a bin of them. I mean, I've got stuff going back to 30 pin days. I still have those laying around. So not those are of any use anymore. But you also could think about too, Apple does release firmware upgrades. They did release firmware upgrades for the MagSafe cable. And they also did release a firmware upgrade to the 2-meter MagSafe to USB-C adapter that comes with Max. So could they just could it be a firmware upgrade to that particular adapter? I kind of doubt it, only because that's an older adapter, and they may not have built in that technology to give them the capabilities of doing firmware. And at least that's my thought.
Yep. The other thing, if you still use one of the Lightning port iPads to do your professional workflow.
Yeah, you need a new iPad.
That too, but this might still work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh, the SD card version?
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I've got both the USB-C versions and the Lightning versions. I mean, I can pull up my case, and I have it all laid out in the top cover of a nylon case, and I shake my head every time. Why did I buy all these adapters? I probably used them once.
Yeah, this has been sitting in my drawer for about 5 years.
You needed it.
I needed it
bad.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The one time I needed this was during this show.
See?
Well, I can't reach. It's a little too far when I'm walking off to get it. So
something David can't just reach behind him and have.
No, it's in the closet. It's in the closet. It's in the closet. I can see the case. I'm just not going to get up and get it. So let's hope it's fixed. And I think this didn't get a ton of press, so I didn't really hear much about it here on the Mac Rumors article, but I wanted to make sure I brought it up for everybody here. So another flaw that was found is some Apple Watch users were complaining of an odd green screen tint following Watch OS 9.5 update. They were noticing some unusual green tint and on the watch. There was certain accessing certain UI elements based on complaints were, again, the Mac Rumors forums and Reddit were very lively of it. So it says almost all the models are affected, and even the Apple Series 8 is affected, and the older devices, earlier models, seemingly faring worse. Not a surprise. Users afflicted with the issues say that green tint is visible on the passcode input screen when accessing the control center and
I haven't even noticed that.
Yeah, it says fewer Apple Watch SE and Apple Watch Ultra users were affected by this issue. some are suggesting that Apple may have intentionally added the tint. Okay.
No.
But I just can't see that for a reason at all. But Apple has fixed with the color tint issues on iPhones. So I guess again another story that's not been getting a lot of prominence here. Go ahead, Patrice.
A lot of Germans and tinfoil hats in those forums apparently complaining and theories and all that. No, I can tell you what's happening. Apple as a company currently is focused on the next thing because WWDC is in 10 days.
Yep.
And stuff, and also developers, I think, outside of Apple are getting ready for that. And stuff like that simply, like, they are not focused on it. They're not focused on testing. They don't have as much time for it. As long as the current version is, or the current version is kind of fresh and released, there's a lot of to do there and to fix there. So they're focusing on it and they're testing on it. But now is the time when they're letting things slide because very soon they're going to stop adding new things to those old versions. Other than bug fixes and security fixes.
Right.
So this happens. Like people are just focused on somewhere else and something like doesn't get noticed. Might have even be reported internally. Someone found it, but it was simply like, we don't have time to fix that. It's not so important. What is a green tint? Sorry. It doesn't really change.
Most people won't even notice it.
Yeah, I didn't notice. Like if I have it, I haven't even noticed. If I don't have it, then I don't know why. But
yeah.
I don't have the problem on my Series 8.
Nor do
I. And I'm glad because I would have noticed right away. And it would have really, really bothered me.
It might bother you, but it's not going to stop you from using the device.
No.
Like it's not something where like the USB adapter where it just breaks.
True. Everyone else would be really annoyed because I would be complaining loudly on every show.
This is true.
Are you German too?
I bet if I did one of the tests like 23andMe,
oh yeah,
it would come back and say, "Wow, you have a real strong German streak." And
ask ChatGPT; it will tell you.
Oh yeah. It'll come back and just call you hair Gamet.
Yeah, and not referring to how we all looked in the 1980s.
No.
HERR.
Yeah. Yep. Although now I've got this image in my head of Dave with big glam rock hair and absolutely owning it.
I used to have it when I was younger.
Oh,
see, David probably has had a mullet.
I did one time.
See, I knew it.
When I got older, this was in high school though.
Yeah, sure.
I have a story for after the show on that.
All right, hold your thought on that one.
Looking forward to that.
Let's talk about the complete chaos.
Hold your thought on that. Speaking of thought, I know Jeff's going to have lots of thoughts about this. Max, it launched.
Mm-hmm.
No longer HBO Max, it's Max. Warner Brothers today, this week, launched the new Max streaming service that merges HBO Max and Discovery Plus content and rebranded it to that wonderful brand we all love. And as we know, it was announced last month, and it combines all kinds of content, including DC Universe and Cartoon Network and Turner Library and Looney Tunes and Adult Swim, and then, of course, all the brands from the Discovery side of things. Interesting way they're packaging this. They'll have 3 different tiers here. You can have a Max Ad Lite, which includes 2 concurrent streams and 1080p resolution. No offline downloads, but you do get 5.1 surround sound, but you got to deal with ads. Then you have the Max Ad Free, which is $15.99 a month, which includes 2 concurrent streams, still only 1080p, and you have 30 offline downloads and the surround sound. Then the Max Ultimate Ad Free is $19.99 a month, which includes 4 concurrent streams and up to 4K UHD resolution, 100 offline downloads, and Dolby Atmos sound. And, 4K content is not that prevalent right at the moment here. I thought a couple of thoughts already I could tell you. I thought it was the most bizarre thing how they handled the app conversion. Mm-hmm. So you had to go down and download another app and then delete the other old download. There was the first thing I saw that was a little crazy. And it was an interesting way. It did bring the account over. At least you didn't have to re-sign in. But but they've. I mean, HBO's
say
done
some
this.
people.
Yeah, HBO's done this. I
people.
mean, we got HBO Go, HBO Now, then HBO Max, and now just Max.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
only
And the crazy thing is, they start over every time. It's not that
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we have a somewhat working app here. We've worked out all the kinks, and
No.
maybe we have to rebrand it and maybe fix like 2 or 3 things. No, they start over and introduce the same bugs over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and of all the branding IP Warner Brothers Discovery has, they chose the one that's probably worth the least by a mile.
yeah, Cinemax.
I mean, I could see if they called this just Warner Brothers Discovery, that would be a good name, leveraging their HBO
How
branding.
about
which is worth-
WBHBO?
Yeah,
Hmm?
but instead it is more like WBD WTF.
Oh my
So,
God.
Dave, when you downloaded the new app, you were logged into it.
yeah, it transferred over.
It did not for me, and I see tons of complaints online of people saying this is so stupid. I had to download an app, and now I have to log back in. So
Yeah,
I
so it was
downloaded the
probably
new
back-
app.
You know, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I did it on the Apple TV and I did it on the iPhone and the iPad. So it's
I
possible.
downloaded it on my Apple TV, and then it was like, okay, now you have to log in, and immediately I thought, there's something else I can watch.
Oh no! Everybody was
And-
and everybody was
Yes,
complaining.
go back to Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've just been watching shows on Apple TV Plus and nothing on HBO Now Max. And
Yeah, very very poor communication. Not and when you launch HBO Max, it's not available in your region. Instead of saying, "Oh, go download the new app," they put that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And interesting the way
It's
they
like the video
Like-
player, for example, like they did a custom player that again doesn't have 90% of the features that people expect and want, like especially on the platforms
Right.
like tvOS.
Yeah.
And again, half of the time doesn't work properly. And instead of just using, I mean, they tried that already with Max, I think, and instead of just using the player they had, that works.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
crazy.
I swear to God, the last time this company had any positive press, Christopher Nolan was still directing Batman films.
Wow.
Wow.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long time.
I mean, even when you're navigating all the new content, and then you have Max this, and then HBO, and then everybody wants to watch the series they have, so you have to go to HBO to see that. But then you have the movies and everything else. So it's just a complete confusion. I don't get it. It was HBO was one of the one of the original brands of cable content. I mean, they started in the early 80s. I mean, it's been around a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it just is really a shame where this brand has gone, and it just makes no sense.
Yeah, this is what happens when you have a accountant who gets booed during a university commencement address instead of someone who knows what he has in charge of this company.
Yeah. So I think that's enough of giving him any breath right now, because but I mean, shows like Succession is so popular. People are watching that show right now, and there is a lot of good content.
Not as many.
If they can't watch it because they figure out how to connect. I think we've beat that one to death here. Speaking of,
if only there was a media company that is almost as much hot water.
Speaking of that, yes, Netflix. They're beginning their crackdown on passwords in the U.S. and the U.K. They officially have cracked down on password sharing in the United States and the United Kingdom more than a year after they had announced this move. And they explained in the U.S. and U.K. websites how viewers who share their accounts passwords or outside the household would be affected, and additional costs there would be. The whole spiel. They want you to buy another account for that person to then stop sharing your password. There were some good examples. A good example, I didn't have this. It isn't in this article, but here's a parent that has kids going to college. And why should they pay for another Netflix account for them when they can easily use that when they're at in their college dorm room? I don't think that's fair. You know, I think there's a lot of unhappy people, and I would be at all surprised that Netflix is going to start seeing some reduction in subscriptions after this.
By the way, they're also cracking down in Europe because I saw the news also in
UK.
Austria
They said
that they're doing that.
Oh, in Austria.
No,
okay.
But it's not just UK. Like Austria, I'm guessing Germany and so on as well.
Everywhere
like,
else, yeah.
Yeah, it's like interesting.
Yeah. Here's what I did in response to this. I was previously on the UHD tier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I cut that back to just what T-Mobile gives me for free.
Right. Which I have too.
If it's going to be people in different houses, and we do have people in different houses on our cellular plan, why be paying for more stuff that we will have to pay even more to get, potentially, if we decide to actually use it? Number two,
right.
How exactly does Netflix determine what the main household is?
Exactly. You know, I have a good example. You know, my wife is a part owner of a summer home now. She has been for many years. She owns that home. I'm married to her. It's our family. We should have the right to go to that home, which is on obviously in a different IP address, and be able to watch Netflix. Why can't we do that? So there's so many exceptions to this beyond the blatant sharing of your password with like a friend or somebody who lives 1,000 miles away or whatever. I understand that, but there's going to be a lot of cases like what I just mentioned that have that. The same thing with college. You know, why can't their son or daughter be able to use their Netflix account while they're in college? Why should they? They're already paying tens of thousands of dollars in tuition for going to college as it is. I mean, my God.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing on this, Netflix already makes it very difficult for an Apple user to find content.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's impossible to find stuff on there. I go in there all the time. It's like, I want to watch something. Oh, I got to navigate all over the place to try to find something that interests me.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who's integrated in Up Next, I remember their content before Netflix.
Yeah.
Because you can find there's another problem here, and it's totally Netflix's fault, and it's that they promoted for a really long time sharing your password with other people to get more people using the service. And
in fact, they increased the price to say, hey, you can do that, so it's fine if we increase the price a little.
Right. And now we have this situation or scenario, and it's causing a lot of people, at least a lot of people that I've seen online, to complain, saying this is ridiculous that Netflix won't let me share my password. Now, on one hand, I totally get how ridiculous that sounds, because it's like, why shouldn't everyone that's using it pay for it?
Right.
But on the other hand, Netflix created this.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, you're paying already per parallel stream. So there's a limited number of parallel streams that you can watch. So that means usually parallel people that can watch. And I just checked on the Netflix site. It's even more complicated because on the standard plan that is, I think, $12.99 or something like that. I'm in the US. I'm on the Austrian side, so I should probably switch to the US. But like, you can only add one extra member. So if you have two kids and they're in like college or something, you can only add one of them, or they have to again share the password. And on the premium plan, which is $19.99. Okay, so $15.49 for the standard and $19.99 for the premium plan. You can add two. So not only are they limiting like who you can share with, but also how many people.
Yeah.
So it's not that you can just say, well, if I have 10 kids, I'll just add 10 extra members for $4.99 and then like they can all watch. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Because you still have to use the one password to sign in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have, two additional kids and you're on the UHD tier, nobody's spending $36 for Netflix.
No. Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh well. I think it's enough of our bandwagon on that topic. Let's go ahead and go to the last story this week. United Airlines has added live activities and dynamic island support for flight tracking. This is exciting. United this week, as we record this, has updated the iPhone app to add support to these live activities and dynamic island to allow United passengers quicker access to their flight tracking information. As everybody knows, live activities is right at the top there. You put your little tap and you can get this information. I think this is going to be a continued trend by other airlines and other content providers. We're already seeing it with sports. We're already seeing it with a lot of other things. I thought this was a good mention to know that now you're seeing it with airlines that are looking at it. I think this is helpful to be able to track where your flight is. So what do you think, Patrice?
Took them long enough. Them long enough. I mean, this feature has been out almost a year. Not quite, but almost a year. And I think other airlines have already done it, but I mean, it's United, so
yeah.
What are we expecting?
Yeah. Being late is very on brand for United.
Yeah.
So true.
That's a good one, Ben. That was very good. Anything for you, Jeff? Or move on here.
No. How can I top that wrap up that Ben just gave us?
Ben is the best on that one. All right, let's go to the topics this week. iOS 16.6 beta 1 came out right immediately after 16.5 dropped this week. I don't think we're seeing too much as far as any differences as far as what was added. I know, Patrice, you run everything on beta. Have you noticed anything since you upgraded this?
No, there's nothing known really that has changed, which either means they have something they're announcing in 10 days that they want to add to this and then release early, or this is simply, okay, we have to do another version because September is still a long way, so we're going to probably in July have another release.
Yep.
So might as well do that. And there's nothing other than a few bug fixes, probably nothing there.
Yeah, I didn't see anything. Did you two as well, Ben?
Same. I can't tell the difference between 16.6 and 16.5.
Yeah, same. And
it's like an Apple TV update.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is there
ever anything in Apple TV updates?
Never.
No.
It
seems like
changed the version number.
I think the last thing was the grid view for sports. That's what the last thing they added for Apple TV for TV Plus.
That's true.
Right.
That's tvOS. But what they're potentially saying, though, is I'll mention just the other OSs: iPad OS 16.6 and Watch OS 9.6. Nothing there, and then, as we said, tvOS was nothing there as well. There was an interesting story that is saying that potentially the iOS 16.6 beta lays groundwork for iMessage contact key verification. It does appear to include that in. It is not clear how the feature is functional in its first beta. So that's one thing that was, I think, you guys don't see it in functional, right? So
no, it's not functional. No. Someone found a few message strings for like error messages or whatever. I mean, this is a feature I think that was even known that Apple would do this. Because it's part of I think what's called lockdown. I think the lockdown mode on the phone, like when you're, I don't know, a security researcher or a human rights activist or something like that, journalist, you're a vulnerable group and you want to lock down your phone more, so like certain things don't work. Okay, you can't be hacked as easily, really.
Yeah.
This is part of that. So you can also like verify kind of like a GPG key or something like that, where you can verify, like you show the key to when you meet someone, you show the key and exchange it, and then you know this person's for this person. So
yeah, absolutely. Stuff like that. All right. And I will mention those of you who haven't upgraded to 16.5 that you still have devices out there that can't go to 16. Apple still continues to keep updates on 15. It's 15.7.6 and iPad OS 15.7.6 put those rapid security response fixes in there. So they did release that to keep those who are on the older devices safe.
So we should say, because rapid security response is an iOS 16 and macOS feature, so last year's versions.
Right.
This is the same fixes. This is the same fixes simply as a standard dot release.
So, right, but they have to just do a full out release. They can't do it as a rapid response. Yeah. So, So, but just wanted to make sure I mentioned that for those who are still on the older devices. Another topic here I wanted to touch on is this was an article in 9 to 5 Mac here is about here's how you finally can stop the infuriating spam calls on your iPhone. As we know, just go to airplane mode. Don't get the calls.
Move to Europe. Also an option.
There is I guess there's a service out there called Incogni's automated personal information removal service that will ferret out the data brokers most likely to be dealing in your personal data. After they send wave after wave of after you send all those opt-out requests. So it is a bit of an advertisement here. They're trying to take a look at their product here to see if it would help. There are other ways of doing it. Like a T-Mobile has the spam tool that you can get the basics, and it's been doing a relatively good job. Although I've had a couple come through here last week here, which has been kind of annoying. Mm-hmm. And I had to tell my insurance company to stop calling me every time my prescriptions are ready to be filled. I got the response this morning saying, "Oh, we've opted you out on all that. I didn't opt in the first place, but thank you." So yeah, this article is more of maybe of an advertisement for this, but it just a bit more of awareness. Just there are ways of doing this. Do you guys use any tools that beyond that? Like I know there's another tool. All the carriers have something that they're not foolproof, but
I'm using Hiya.
Hiya, that's it. Yep.
Yeah. Truecaller is another one. I think that's what I have.
Yeah. I use the T-Mobile one.
Spam Shield
with. Spam Shield combined with if I don't know you, you're going to voicemail.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the Incogni process on their website. So are they like just contacting database owners and saying pull this person out of the database, or
I'm not sure.
Because it looks like that's what they're doing, which doesn't sound very effective to me at all. And alternately, I suppose they could be
I guess you're right.
Having all of the data going to your phone, including phone calls, routing through their service and then out to you and filtering, which I would absolutely not want. So I would like to know more about how this really works, because paying $6.49 a month for a service where they're just contacting database owners and saying, hey, take this person out.
Yeah, it's not effective. To me, that doesn't seem very effective.
Yep. There's also one piece of information in this article that I would really much like to know.
Mm-hmm.
That is a disclaimer. I would like to know if they are doing this particular piece because they're interested in it, and money has not changed hands, or if this is a sponsored article.
It's a sponsored post. It says at the top of the page. Yeah. So the problem, but I totally get why you would miss that, because
I did.
You're checking the headline and jumping right into the article, and So
there should be a disclaimer right at the top of that post.
Yeah, I fell for it only because I was using it as a discussions piece for the spam calls that we deal with. So I'll make sure we have in the show notes that of the tools that are available on the top 3 carriers, and take a look at your carriers. Hiya is another one that is relatively effective. Relatively effective when it comes to blocking it. I guess that for the most part, T-Mobile's been doing a pretty good job with Spam Shield as far as our carrier goes.
Now, isn't Spam Shield just their white label version of Hiya? I mean, like literally, it's Hiya.
It could be. They don't disclose that, but I was going in here to look here real quick. I'm sorry, it's Scam. It's called Scam Shield. So when you see, it just says scam block is on. I've had 12 likely scam calls blocked in the last 30 days. And the cool thing is I don't even see the call. It just says scam likely, and it never rings. But there, like I said, some have slipped through that were legitimately crap, basically. So, but yeah, we'll put in show notes all the different other ways of this. You can check out the other one if you want. But take a look at the fine print, see if it's something that would fit your needs. Because like I agree with Jeff, especially you're going to a database owner. Yeah, they're not going to listen. I'd be surprised they listen half the time. But
right. If I was a database owner, I would take this as a system where your victim is paying to verify with the spammers that their phone number is legit.
Yeah, there you go. There's another reason.
Yeah,
so
it's a business. That's a cool business.
Yep. So let's move on to the topic of the week I wanted to talk about. As Ben did a really great blog post here about Apple and its needs of a single computer OS. And you did talk about this a few months back, and let's just run with it because you did a great write up on this. I wanted to see what your thoughts were on this, as well as get the panel here to put their chime in as well. So,
well, this started with the realization that I am now a person of a certain age. I grew up with a keyboard and mouse interface.
Yep.
I prefer a keyboard and mouse to a controller by doing first-person shooters. And being either late Gen X, early millennial, I did not grow up the same way that later millennial and Gen Z did. They have grown up almost entirely in a touch-based world.
Yes.
We have a brand new versions of Final Cut and Logic that is designed for their world. I actually watched iJustine's review of Final Cut Pro right before this. And there's a lot of stuff that makes absolute sense in there. What doesn't make sense is we have basically two competing lines of computer from Apple. We have one that is completely keyboard and mouse based, can only do things one way. Then we have the iPad, which can do things both ways, but has software limitations, but is using the same hardware as a MacBook Air. I mean, this arrangement made a lot of sense when we were mostly talking about my generation using computers. The iPad was basically an enlarged iPhone, and there hadn't been really any inroads. I mean, basically, you didn't consider the iPad a computer. Right now, from a hardware perspective, the iPad Air and the iPad Pro can do everything hardware-wise that a Mac can. The 10th generation iPad, let's be honest, is more powerful than a lot of Intel-based Macs that are still supported in Ventura. Yet, to basically, as Final Cut has showed it right now, to have the full list of capabilities that Apple's platforms are capable of, you have to have two different devices. This is undoubtedly putting a strain on Apple's internal developments, since they have to support these two completely separate hardware tracks. This is putting strain on developers who in many many instances will choose between iPad and the Mac. And, when you can use an iPad app on your Apple Silicon Macs, it's usually not optimized, despite it being relatively easy to optimize it. We're getting to a point where we're doing things a certain way only because that's the way they have done it. And the fact that Microsoft, who has tried to merge things, hasn't done it right. Quite frankly, the iPad OS interface works better for touch than Windows. It's actually pretty good keyboard and mouse. And to be perfectly honest, if they were to integrate the iPad OS version of Control Center in Mac, the difference between a keyboard and mouse interface and a touch interface could probably be switched between in about 2 seconds. I mean, the fact that on the iPad OS you don't have to have hardware, you can use a software OS jog wheel very easily to get into clips. We're not using, a lot of us aren't using these giant monitors anymore, and it really doesn't take that much effort to touch my screen. I mean, if the question remains, if Apple was to do this right now, would they consider the iPad and the Mac two different machines? And to be perfectly honest, I don't think they should anymore. I think they should be working wholeheartedly to be towards making a computer OS. Does this work for all iPads? No. The old home button iPads, this definitely doesn't work for. The original USB-C iPads or iPads Pro, why they have technically ran Mac OS in the in the developer kit, they're not particularly suited for it. But I think all currently shipping iPads plus the M1s should be very much considered for a combined OS. You shouldn't see the MacBook and the iPad as one greater and one lesser. They're two parallel paths to the same thing. And the other thing, there's been a lot of reluctance in the Apple world to kind of go beyond what Johnny Ive has done.
Yeah, that's long gone.
The MacBook design form factor we're looking for. I had to look this up. The original Titaniums were released in 2001 using a PowerPC G4.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And quite frankly, the M1 Pro MacBook Pro I'm using doesn't look a whole lot different. The iMac, while slimmer, is still very much based on the iMac G5. Yeah, iOS hasn't.
Yeah, all of it is iterations on, original ideas. You can go back to the original, Apple and say, okay, if you follow it, it's always improving, iterating, but it's the same principle still.
Yeah, but still, you look at some of the machines from HP and the Surface line, you can take Microsoft's all-in-one, use it as a traditional computer, push the stand down, and then you have a super tablet.
Yeah, let me bring the topic of this into the enterprise, into corporate world. You got a lot of companies these days who want to use tablets, and they want to have a tablet. It's a Windows tablet, which unfortunately, and you have to contend with on a Windows tablet the fact of battery life. Battery life is atrocious in Windows, absolutely atrocious. You want to be able to have someone be able to go out and do a job that they have to do because they need a tablet for their particular job, and it should last 10 hours. You got companies now that are looking at companion devices, giving them an iPad along with a Windows tablet because they have to. God. Yeah, so they have to. So you have to get take the iPad out into the world to do their work, and then take their Windows tablet at home and do the work after the fact, because systems are there's lies your issues. Systems are not designed in a way that they can't work on an iPad. It's so crazy. I love the fact that Apple has always kept them separate in a sense. They've, everybody's asked, is there ever going to be a touchscreen on a Mac? I don't think there ever will be because of the iPad. And I think I agree with you in some sense when it comes to the OS. Could they join them together? But I think they could. I don't know if they will, but they could. And I think the devices can work in such a way where you'll have the options to do more of that stuff. But you want your world at home when you're working on a Mac, and you want your world when you're traveling and doing your work using an iPad. But I agree with you. The OSs should be very similar, only because you're transitioning to two different places. You give the example of Final Cut, we're going to talk about in just a minute here. There are already limitations with Gen number 1 of Final Cut Pro where you can't bring projects back and forth, and you're limited to the way the libraries can work on an external device. Where you have no problem doing that on a Mac, but you do have the limitation on an iPad right now. So if they change it, I would probably think they're looking at it, and they rushed it out. But I do agree in some senses that they should look at this. I don't know, but I question if it's going to happen. I want to hear what the rest of the panel has their opinions on this. Do you want to go ahead, Jeff?
Well, okay. I like the idea of Apple doing something that's unified, something that is different from what they're doing now, and not change for the sake of change sake. Wow, that was a really messed up sentence. But more like looking towards the future and setting us up for where they're taking us with hardware. And I do like that right now what we have is a system where with iOS and iPadOS, Apple is designing for touch first. And on macOS, it's designed for keyboard and mouse for a hardware input device first. Unlike Windows, which has always been hardware input device, and they also let you do a touch thing, and it doesn't work very elegantly. So what form does that take? And the idea that I have come up with, which is probably not something that's truly viable, but I kind of like the idea of it. I call it the DuoPad. And you remember long ago, Apple had the MacBook Duo. Mm-hmm. And so you had a desktop computer unit that sat on your desk with a big slot in it, just the right size to stick your laptop in. And when your laptop was in this Duo dock, you had a full-on desktop horsepower machine. When you ejected it from the dock, you now have this portable computer, not as fully powered as it is in the dock, but still a very useful device. Why not do something like that with the iPad? And now your iPad goes in the dock and it becomes a full-on desktop Mac. When you pop it out, it's still fully functional as a high-end iPad.
The thing is, with the USB-C and Thunderbolt ports, they, from a hardware level, they're already able to do that.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So that would be kind of fun. The problem that I see for Apple is how do you differentiate products when you unify to that level? So on some level, Apple, I think, is incentivized to have artificial limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives us a Mac and that gives us an iPad.
Yeah.
I would love to have a single device that I can do everything with at my desk and on the go. We're not there yet.
I mean, just look at it from a historic standpoint. The Mac is basically 40 years old. Actually, more if you count the apples, the original apples, even like the idea of a Mac is this old. The iPad really came from the idea of a tablet, and really the iPhone. I mean, even though historically it was the other way around, but like when it was released, it was basically this is a big iPhone. Mm-hmm. And I think there were people within Apple that were champions of that. Probably even very late, but Steve Jobs himself. And things change. And over time, I think now that we're going more towards AR, VR from the looks of it, you have to ask the question: do we really need both? Could we merge the two back into one? Like the iPad and the iPhone kind of branched out of the Mac to some extent because the operating system was kind of at least loosely based on it originally. So, I mean, there is a point, and I have to agree with Ben, where, we should question whether we need both. I mean, what is the point? What is the differentiation between the two already? Other than that, on the iPad, you can do a lot of things. You can do a lot of things that you can do on a Mac. The only difference right now is touch.
Yeah.
And sucky software.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I'm a big fan of the iPad and love my iPad, but it's not like the Mac can do so much more. And at some point, I had to ask myself the question, why do I need why am I struggling with using an iPad? So I scaled back my iPad and invested more in my Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. We're starting to ask the teachy questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no, I think this is a good debate. I think there's something to think about into the future, to see where things go. My analogy again with Windows has never had a good experience in the touch world, and never. No. And I don't think I've ever.
No.
Yeah, and I have to support it, so I know firsthand.
Yeah.
And the design of a tablet, especially by Dell and by Lenovo and many of the others who have, and Microsoft for that matter with Surface, is having the detachable keyboard and the physical part of a tablet. It just isn't a good experience on the Windows world. The iPad, and on the other hand, is a much better experience. Battery life in itself is huge. When someone has to be out working in a field job or whatever they're doing, having an iPad, to have that thing last, anywhere between 8 and 10 hours is fabulous. I mean, the Macs have obviously improved immensely with the M2 processor. My M2 MacBook Air is amazing. I mean, I've had that thing run for 10 plus hours, and it doesn't even put a dent in the battery. I mean, it's still about 10 hours. I've gone to about 20%, but geez, that's just incredible. So a lot of factors involved with that, but the OS has a lot to do with it. And I say it every day, why our battery life is so bad on our PCs, and especially these tablets, because they're so power hungry, and then all the background stuff that Windows is doing all the time just kills it. So, but this is a great debate. I hope something comes of it. I think Apple's got to be thinking about it that we don't know about, but we'll see. See where it goes here. So,
I do have to say one thing on that.
Okay.
If XROS is a thing, it is going to be based on a touch interface.
Yeah, seems like that, and we'll definitely hit on that in future shows. Obviously, our pre-WWDC episode is going to be great, and our post episode where Patrice will be on with us again. It's going to be some good discussion. Let's hold it off to those next two shows here. So I want to hit two more topics here before we have to wrap up here. We're getting a little over on time here. I wanted to, I know as we all know, pretty much everybody should know, Final Cut Pro for the iPad and Logic Pro for the iPad were released this week. I did download it. I did start the trial. The great thing about it is you have a 30-day free trial, which you can try it out. You don't have to be stuck buying it. Mm-hmm. But honestly, the price is not that expensive. They're charging you, if you want to hold it for the whole year, it's $49 for each app, and or you can go $4.99 a month and you just do it monthly if you need to use it just for months at a time. That's the nice thing about the subscription. Granted, I know all the people are complaining about this because they've paid for Logic Pro and they've paid for Final Cut Pro on the Mac for years and paid one price and they've had it for years. But I think the way Apple set this up, I think, was smart. A couple caveats I'll jump on. Specifically Logic. Logic is a great program for musicians. It's not. If you're a podcaster and you want to do it for podcast editing, I don't think it's going to be. Yeah, it's very wonky. Ferrite Pro is probably is a much better alternative on the iPad. And even Jason Sell talked about this past week on Mac Break Weekly. He was able to finally talk about it because he had it in his hands for a month prior, so he was on embargo until he could talk about it. So he did make that mention. Yeah, this is not, and he's a big Ferrite user, and it's clunky at best. So it's good for musicians. I think that's, if musicians have been using it, and that's what Logic always has been aimed at, definitely check it out. Final Cut Pro it's got some good things on it so far. I haven't done a lot of editing with it as of yet, but it does have a great interface. I've seen some good things with it, and I know we've at least you and I, Ben, have watched iJustine's review on it, and I think it's a good start. I think it has a bit of ways to go when it comes to being more robust than it already is. The file management, I think, is kind of a bummer. If you want, but these iPads, you got to have an M1 or higher to use the Final Cut Pro as it is anyway. Whereas Logic, you can get away with a A12 or higher. You got to have to be able to use an external drive. These files get enormous, and people don't want to invest for a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte iPad. It just breaks your bank by having to have that much storage on an iPad. So I think that, like I said, this is version 1. I think it's something that we have to they have to take a look at and go for the next update to start supporting that, because it's so important, especially content creators who are doing gigabytes. They're doing 4K videos and higher, and they don't need to have that capability. So, have any of you have downloaded yet? Have at least tried anything yet?
I don't have hands-on, but I will say this. This is kind of akin to the Final Cut Pro Classic to Final Cut Pro 10 transition.
Right.
This is a 1.0 release of new software.
Yep.
That they have to build up to where the Mac version is at right now. This is going to take a few iterations and maybe a couple years.
How long did it take for Final Cut to really, to some extent, catch up? Some people still say there's stuff missing, and maybe I would say not so important, but it depends on what you're using. But it took a couple of years for Final Cut to actually catch up and have something that people want to use.
Yeah. If you're a current professional, do not switch. If you are someone that's new, especially the aforementioned Generation Z, which is kind of just going into video editing, this could be your workflow.
Yeah.
This is how you could learn your craft.
Yeah. The smaller influencer, like the smaller YouTube channels that don't have big production teams and all of that. Like for them, like editing on the go. Even iJustine, I could totally see, because she usually likes to keep things small, like as small as you can.
Right.
Yeah.
So I could see that.
Yeah, and she could do totally everything she needed to do during her review.
Yeah.
In many ways easier than on the Mac.
Yeah, sure.
I will be sticking to LumaFusion for all of my video editing.
You would.
Yep. It works so well that I don't do video editing on my Mac anymore, and haven't for 3 at least 3 years. And for me, Final Cut on the iPad is too feature limited to fit into my workflow. So I'll stick with LumaFusion, and I will, of course, be watching to see as new features are added to Final Cut on the iPad, and I will be glad to see those features come, even though I am firmly in the LumaFusion camp.
Yeah, for sure. So check it out. Like I said, there's a free trial, so you can try it out for 30 days. So if it's something you like, I'm glad Apple did that. So it makes it super easy. That's how subscriptions can work. They're very easy to start a trial and check it out. If you want to keep it, go with the $5 a month plan for a few months. See how you like it, and that applies to both Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro on that. So, one last topic I wanted to hit on here. Thanks for your good input on that topic. Here is I don't know if everybody's aware of this new service that's going out as far as an ultimate free TV upgrade. I thought it was interesting to see. It's a site called Telly, Telly. You go to freetelly.com, and of course, all links will be in the show notes. You're getting basically what you do is you sign up for a free TV, and your first question is, what's the catch? There's got to be a catch to this.
Because there's always a catch.
No one's going to give you a free TV for absolutely nothing, but it intrigues me because of the way they're going about it. What it is it's a TV that's going to have it's 4K. It's got HDR theater display, 55-inch TV, 55-inch TV. It's a dual screen, and why I call it dual screen is that the second screen, as if you can expect, is going to have advertising. But it does have, it's going to have a sports ticker. It's going to have your stock ticker. You can put all kinds of other stuff. You can customize it. You are able to do things with it as far as that customizations go. Of course, they're going to be looking at your watching habits, and they'll probably tailor ads to that. But it's not obtrusive. It's right at the bottom of the TV, so it's not too bad. This is a full TV.
Usually,
that's what they say.
Or yet.
Well, it's like in their terms of service, they actually say when you're not using the TV, they can show you ads on the full thing. So like when you're not in whatever, you're watching something, like if you're just in, I don't know, the browsing thing and you're not navigating, they can actually do a full screen ad.
Yeah, because you do have the capabilities of using it. You can hook up your Apple TV. You can hook up a Roku to it. You can hook up anything to it. It's like any other TV. They're banking on you're right. They are banking on the fact that you can do that. And it's basically they're calling it a smart screen. But you got to also think about you aren't. It isn't in your face on other TVs that have smart TV capabilities, which is pretty much every TV these days. They're watching for what you do too when you're using their services. So you got to have to think about it. Is your privacy that important that you're worried about the data to not have a TV like this? I know some people might jump on it because they want to have a TV like this and to have a free TV is an incentive.
I can see two kind of groups for that might be interested in that. One is businesses, especially hotels.
Yeah, exactly.
For them, like a free TV, like sure shows ads, but who cares? Anyway, nobody's actively watching all that much. The data doesn't matter. They're just running random things. Like for them, probably a good idea. And the other one is probably teenagers or like college kids that just have the TV running in the background while they're doing other things, and they really don't care about like what's on it.
Right.
And don't have the money as well. So like a free TV, like sign me up.
You wonder on the business side of things because I don't think Telly is going to give away TV to a business because the business is in the profit to make money. They probably would charge for it.
They could do partnerships.
Partnerships, yeah.
Yeah, could do that. I said they would be interested.
I'll also mention this. It does include you are going to get a free Chromecast and a Google TV adapter. It's got 3 HDMI inputs, and the over-the-air tuner built into it. So they really are going all on this, and I'm sure they're getting an insane good cost on it. They're starting with 500,000 TVs to give away at first here. But I thought this was interesting. I signed up. Hey, it's a free TV. I'll check it out. It's not going to hurt to try it. And my wife already says, where are you going to put this thing?
Exactly.
In the basement.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. Well, in the basement next to the other big TV, right?
There you go.
Second TV.
So for me, The problem that I would have with a television like this, discounting the fact that I have an extra screen, they can control ads even when I'm not watching and stuff like that. I don't want a television that connects to the internet or requires an internet connection at all. And that's because I have a television and an Apple TV. And I do everything from my Apple TV. Right. So I don't even need a smart television, which means that when my Sony Bravia from, I want to say like 2014, 2011, something like that, when that eventually dies, I will have an issue with trying to find a TV that does not require me to have an internet connection to be able to use.
You can disable it.
So, yeah. And I mean, right now there are televisions that you can buy where you can disable the internet connection part.
Just don't connect it.
And that's great. Yeah, or just don't connect it. Yeah, don't put it on one. But some televisions, and I believe Samsung is making some of these, they will not function unless you give them an internet connection.
Yeah, then there's the problem.
So you turn on your TV for the first time, and that's it. Until you give it internet access, it's done. So
give it internet access for setup and then disconnect it after.
Right. And but like for this television, you can't not have an internet connection because it needs to feed you ads.
Right. Which so I don't have a problem with it. I mean, as a secondary TV.
Yeah. And the idea of having a free television that has all the features that this one has, that's very enticing. So they're doing a really good job with putting together the product. Just the idea for me of a television that requires an internet connection is distasteful.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I did not realize that Samsung's doing that. So
yeah, especially with what they're doing with it. Like I would have no problem. I mean, my Apple TV is connected to the internet all the time.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that. Because I trust Apple, and I know that they're not doing anything nefarious with it. I don't trust TV companies so far.
Yeah.
Well, and the whole thing with being tracked with your TV watching, when you're using an Apple TV, whatever Apple is doing, yes, there's a higher level of trust there. When I switch over to Amazon Prime on my Apple TV to watch a show, Amazon gets to know what I'm doing within the sandbox of their app. Same thing for Paramount Plus. If I can get the HBO Max, the Max app working, it'll be the same thing there. So it's not an entire total viewing experience is being captured by a single entity.
Yes.
I mean, a free television, 55-inch, 4K. I mean, that's a pretty enticing package that they're offering.
Yeah.
I might just put that TV right next to me. I have a 32-inch sitting here right now. What the hell? I've been trying not to buy another TV in here. 32 seems to work okay here, but hey, I got a small stand.
Wouldn't a 55-inch work better?
It would work better, and especially free. So hopefully I'll get it. I mean, I as soon as I found out about this, I went ahead and signed up. So I'd be interesting to see if I get one.
I almost signed up just so I could see the television if I were to get one. And I haven't yet. And I still may do it just to see what the television is.
Yep.
However, if the terms say you get the TV and you have to keep it and it has to be plugged in, then I don't want to do it.
I don't think the terms are there like that, but
yeah, if you get the TV and you don't like it, you can return it, or you can give it away to someone else. So I just need to take some time to look at all of the terms.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt it because they have to they have to pay for the TV and make money somehow.
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, if you just buy one and then like never use it or whatever, I mean, it's a net loss for them. I don't think they want that.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And the other thing is number one, there's a huge difference between no cost to you and free. Yes. This is at no cost to you because someone else is paying for it.
Right.
Yes. The other thing is, I want to know how exactly this will interact with something like the Apple TV. Are they able to intercept what you're browsing?
Probably.
With it being being constantly connected does not bother me because, well, I run everything through my Apple TV anyway. And quite frankly, having a sports ticker at the bottom there I might actually consider somewhat informative. But I want to know if this thing can hijack my viewing experience from my Apple TV just to serve me more ads.
On the bottom screen it would. I don't think it would on the primary screen.
Yeah. I'm going to finish signing up for it just because I'm interested.
Yeah, that's the way I did it too. So
yeah.
Check it out. I think it's something interesting. I have all the links in the show notes. There's also a Life Hacker article about do you want to risk your privacy? I mean, they've got some points there. And ZDNet also had a good write up about it too. So you include that in the show notes. And any last thoughts?
Right. So how long before other television manufacturers decide they're going to do second screen TVs?
Yeah.
And start selling those?
Be interesting to see.
Oh, they're watching this.
They are watching
I'm
this.
sure they are.
Yeah.
What is it now? May? 5 months.
Yeah. We'll see how successful
in time
this
for
is.
the holiday buying season.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah. Hello, CES 2024.
Yeah.
No, that's too late. They're going to do it for Christmas.
Yeah.
If this works and it's popular, and it from the marketing perspective, it's already working.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People jumped on it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing we haven't talked about. This could just be a marketing thing.
It could be. So we'll have some things to talk about in the future once we get the TVs in our hands and find out more about this. We'll cover it. Go ahead. Last thought, Ben.
I was going to say they're definitely marketing to the right people because the people that are apt to know about Telly are usually the people that can get a lot of data from because we're very tech savvy.
Yep. All right. I think we had a great show this week. I knew we would. And before we wrap up, I want to make sure I mention Macstock 7. It is 56 days away. I can't believe it. So it's as we record this, 56 days. As we've talked about a number of times, it's an absolutely great conference. I'll be speaking there. I've spoke at that conference. It'll be my 7th of the in-person years. And it's great. The topic for conversation for us is learn. So each of us is going to be doing a topic on surrounding that topic. It's July 22nd, 23rd. They did recently change the venue. It is now at the. I have to bring this up. I have to remember here. It's at the Stage Left Cafe, which is right in the heart of downtown Woodstock, and that's where they filmed Groundhog Day. So everybody knows the town square. It's actually adorable, cute place to be, and all kinds of great. It's the brick cobblestone road that's within the square. It's really an old time feel. It's a lot of fun to be there. It's a much more cozier venue than the previous venue was. So that's why we had moved it, and right by Mike Potter's office. Literally, you can walk right across down the half block to go to this location. So it is a cool place. Parking is ample. It's going to be easy to park. Many of you be traveling from other locations, but I want you to check it out. And speakers, which I said, including myself, Jeff Gamet is going to be there. Wally Czerzinski, Dave Hamilton's going to be speaking. They're also going to do Mackie Gab Live there, which is kind of cool. Chuck Joyner, Allison Sheridan, and
Brittany,
Brittany Smith, her first appearance there is going to be great. It's going to be great to finally meet her in person. We have a lot of friends, and you find a lot of times you make a lot of good friends at these conferences. It's so cozy and fun, and networking is great, and you get to meet people and that you have never met before, as well as you see people you've seen before. So come check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not too terribly expensive. You got a 2-day event here. It's about $299, but any conference that you go to, it's not too terribly expensive. So come check it out. It's at maxstockconferenceandexpo.com. We'd love to have you join us. Tickets are starting to probably get a little limited. They got hotel blocks assigned away for those who are going to travel. But come check it out. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'd hope to see you. It's going to be the first time we've seen each other. Counting last year because we were still a little bit of a limit, but first time it's going to be a full out conference and everybody will be there. So it'd be great to see you. So come.
And if you're flying in, you're within walking distance from a metro station.
Yep, there's the metro station's not too far away, so you could take the train downtown and get you back to the city because some people like to stay. Also, don't forget Barry Falk's going to have his Midwest Mac barbecue. He's bringing that back after 7 years, I think. Yeah, he had it the first year, and we've had different locations after that. But yeah, he's opening his home to everybody. But you have to go to the website, click the link, and request the invite. As long as you know anybody at MacStock, we're going to be more than welcome. There might even be a wine tasting there too. So. It's a lot of fun. So awesome. Barry's awesome. We might even do a podcast or two. Who knows? I'm tempted to do that. Just keep that tradition going. Now that I've been last time we were there, I wasn't a podcaster yet, so now I might be able to do it. So we get some episodes, get some fun. That would be so much fun if we get to do that. I'm going to definitely try to do that. So come check us out. We'd love to see you. And with that, let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter at InTouchWithIOS. You also can follow us on Mastodon and InTouchWithIOS on TechHangout.social, which is Patrice's Mastodon instance, which you can, if you know her, she might even let you in. So go check out that. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You also can become a Patreon of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you're notified when we are live streaming. Usually it's on Thursday nights, but we were streaming Friday afternoon today just to bring on our special guest, Patrice. That's at youtube.com/intouchwithios. You can watch the live show. I leave the live shows up there. You can go back and watch them later, as well as listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped onto that magazine. The link is in our show notes. If you can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Pocket Casts, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, and many others. But better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Mastodon at mastodon.cloud at DaveG65, as well as on Twitter at DaveG65. Patrice Brend'amour, thank you so much for being here. It was so great to have you back on the show. It was like too long. I'm so glad we were able to do it. It was a long time. So
yeah.
Where can people find you?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. You can find me on the British Tech Network every week, Thursdays for the Big Show. We talk about the non-Apple side of things, and Fridays with Dave and Ben and Jeff and Chuck and some other lovely people. We talk about Apple's things. So there's a keynote poker next week. I highly recommend that one.
Yes.
You can find everything I'm doing, all the social media links, the podcasts, the projects, like literally everything on my website, thepatrice.com. There's also Buy Me a Coffee link there. And if you are into food-related stories and memories, I have a podcast called Foodie Flashback where I interview like really interesting people. I'm going to interview Ben as well. Everybody else I think I've already done. And it's just really a really cool like thing to learn about people's stories around food and all of that. And techhangout.social is my Mastodon instance. If you know me, if you can reach out to me, if you know someone who knows me, it's also fine. And you're looking for an instance. Yeah, hope you can join that.
Excellent. Thanks. Ben Roethig, thank you for being here as well. Where can people find you?
Well, Dave, you can find me at Ben Roethig on your social media of choice. My website, roethig.tech. And you can find me Tuesday on Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices, Thursday and Friday on the British British Tech Network for the big and Mac shows. And thankfully, right now, you can find me on the weekend.
Yay. Thanks, Ben. And last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet, always a pleasure having you here. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Mastodon and Instagram, basically all the socials, as Jay Gamet, but Mastodon and Instagram. That's where I'm actually posting stuff right now. Then for shows, how about Tuesdays on Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices Live, then on Thursdays on You're in Touch with iOS, although we're doing it Friday today. Mm-hmm. Then for the British Tech Network, you have what is it? The Big Show that's on Thursdays. And the Mac Show that's on Fridays. And then also the Context Machine, Brian Chaffin and I do that. And so we'll be recording another episode again, probably later today. And I think that's it.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for being here. We're going to have 2 great shows coming up in the next couple weeks. Next week will be a pre-WWDC discussion. And then Patrice will be back on June 9th. That'll be the recap of WWDC. It's going to be a great show. I hope you can look forward to the next 2 weeks of shows here. Until that time, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon.